Miss Spears has been denied the right to associate freely with her friends. She's been denied the right to make or receive telephone calls. She has been denied. Welcome back to Wine and Chill, your home for all things millennial adulting and entertainment law shenanigans. I'm Stephanie, and today we are going to talk about Britney Spears' conservatorship. Ooh, almost spilled the wine. I really appreciate you guys being so interactive in the comments. This video is from request by Babs B Official. If you are like me, before we heard of Britney Spears' conservatorship, that was the first time I heard it. Conservatorship is a very specific area of law under probate law, which is under state court. So this was very interesting to do research on an area of law that prior to this, I was not familiar with. And with that being said, time for our disclaimer. By watching this video, you acknowledge that this video is for entertainment purposes only, and I am not your attorney nor giving you legal advice, and that you have read the full disclaimer in the description box below. All right, and on to the case. So, Britney Spears, as you may have heard, has now been granted the right as of October 14th to get her own attorneys. So we are going to actually start from way back when this started, and the only full piece of legal documentation that is on the internet, which is very interesting. And go into conservatorship. I would like to give also a huge shout out and do my research on this. I believe it's called Lawyers for Britney on Instagram. They have a really great Instagram page if you want to know more details. They've been keeping up to date with all of this, and I think it's a really good resource. So definitely head over there, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up the case. So a little bit of timeline, so that way we are on the same page. So as of October 14th, 2020, Britney has now been allowed to get her own attorneys and to hire her own independent legal counsel. You might ask, wait, she wasn't allowed to have attorneys? We are going to get to that. So timeline of events from the beginning, because this is going to tie into the specific court document that we're going to look at today. So at 11 years old, Britney Spears joined the Mickey Mouse Club as a childhood star, then became international sensation that we all know, especially if you are a millennial. We grew up to all of her hits and seeing her on the screen. She then went on to have 2 children, which the birth of her second child happened in 2007. Unfortunately, she suffered a mental break in 2008, which we all publicly witnessed shortly after the birth of her second child, which is 2 months later. I think that's important to note because her being a childhood star is important to note because the statistics on childhood stars and what that does to your psyche as a child than an adult are not positive, as we have seen from many childhood stars who are hopefully, on the way to recuperation. Amanda Bynes, Lindsay Lohan, Eddie from That's a Raven. What's his name? Yes. Anyways, it usually doesn't end in Macaulay Culkin, who's finally doing well, which is lovely. Doesn't do well. And then also with giving birth, postpartum depression is a common occurrence in women that give birth, neither of which are talked about enough. So this may or may not have led to her breakdown, which we witnessed in 2008. So the 2008 breakdown then led her father, Jamie Spears, as he's often referenced to institute what was initially a temporary conservatorship and then led to a permanent conservatorship. So that is our short, truncated timeline of events. So first question, what in the world is a conservatorship? Conservatorship is created by the appointment of a conservator, also sometimes called a guardian. A conservator is a person or entity appointed by a court to manage the property, daily affairs, and financial affairs of another person, usually someone who is incompetent by reason of physical or mental infirmity or age. Incompetence is the key word there. To get a conservatorship over someone else, you have to declare them incapacitated. To declare someone incapacitated, they need to either be mentally ill to the point where they cannot take care of themselves or their estate, or it usually happens with older people. In terms of Britney Spears, to declare her incapacitated, her father had a doctor declare in court documents that she had dementia in 2008. And has, according to him, dementia. I am a lawyer, not a medical doctor. So I am not going to sit here and tell you what the signs of dementia are. You could Google them. All I'm going to say is I have never seen anyone with dementia go on a full tour, put out an album, do press. That's all I'm gonna say about that. So we're doing well covering our entertainment like all shenanigans. Just a step back. We have now seen federal court with Monique's case. We have seen state court with Amigo's case. And now we're going to go to probate court, which we're going to California probate court, which probate court is a subsection of state court. It's similar to family law. It's trust and estates. So with probate court, which is a state court versus federal court, this is important because what the document we're going to look at in 2008, when she was instituted under this conservatorship under her father, she did not like it, of course. He then took control of all of her assets, all of her daily life. We're going to go into the document. She reached out to an attorney of the name of John Erdley. He filed a notice of removal from state court to federal court in 2008. The reason why he did this is because in state court, what Jamie Spears sought to do and what he has done for many years is seal many of the court documents. So while you will see online, there will be articles referencing certain court documents and they'll only show a snippet, it's because they don't have the whole thing. When you seal documents, sealing documents is something that is intended to protect people. So for example, all juvenile records are supposed to be sealed. When it comes to something that involves someone else's privacy, they'll seal it. For example, certain federal court cases, if you have someone who's a witness, they'll seal their witness statement sometimes, so that way that person is not in danger. So it's usually, sealing cases is usually reserved for very extreme circumstances and to protect someone else. And according to John Erdley, the sealing, in his opinion, was unnecessary and was being used by Britney's estate to basically keep it under wraps. Britney's estate has argued the opposite and said, no, this is for her privacy. That is up to you to decide whether or not you think that that is appropriate. I find it very interesting, just to say the least. All right, so with context in the document that we're gonna go over. So Britney Spears has a court-appointed attorney. And yes, you heard that right. Some of you may be familiar, and if for those not familiar, if you have a court-appointed attorney, that's because generally those get appointed to people that cannot afford attorney. Britney Spears is worth hundreds of millions of dollars, allegedly, or should be by anybody's calculation of basic numbers. She can afford an attorney. According to her conservatorship, she does not have the mental capacity to hire herself an attorney. So for the past 12 years under this conservatorship, she has had a court-appointed attorney. Court-appointed attorneys, unfortunately, usually have very high workload, are often very overworked because our criminal justice system and our justice system in general needs a huge overhaul. So that's problem number one as to how she has a court-appointed attorney when she is one of the richest self-made women in America, or should be, had she been allowed to her own money. With that being said, John Erdley, who filed this, after he filed this, the court threw it out and said that he did not have an attorney-client relationship with Britney Spears because, and quote, under her conservatorship, she did not have the mental capacity to hire him. This case, and I'm just gonna say it now because it is very sad, and it's also shows a very common, unfortunately, ugly side of entertainment, in that the parent-child relationship in a lot of these former child stars is not positive. The few positive child stars that ended up, you know, for all intents and purposes, somewhat normal and have functioning families and functioning relationships had parents that shielded them for this. A good example is Tia and Tamara. They talk about this often, that their parents were extremely strict and didn't let them do a lot of things, and they were like, why not? And now that they're older, they see why. Certain people, unfortunately, use their children to make them money and then do foolishness. So that's my 2 cents there. No more of that, because y'all know, keep it to myself, my personal opinions. However, there are many former child stars that have emancipated from their parents because their parents, and we can look into those cases later. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to look into those cases. I think they're very interesting because it shows the downside and the complete what can be extremely negative experience and irreparable negative experience for children who are extremely talented, but their parents only see dollar signs. There are multiple child stars that have emancipated from their parents because they felt that their parents were just using them for money, overbooking them. And it's a fine line, and it's also one of the unfortunate things that happens. And as a society, we all watch the movies, but then we don't talk about it. So let me know in the comments if there are any certain child stars that maybe we can look into, or if that that were emancipated from their parents, if you want to see that. All right, so by trying to remove the case to federal court, you have to have a federal question, which we're going to go through what John Erdley, the attorney, thought was his federal question here. Or you have to meet the minimal threshold in terms of money. So for this, it was a federal question. So we're going to go through this. This is one of the few full documents available online. A lot of the documents, there are more recent documents, I'll be honest with you. However, as we'll see, because the conservatorship has sealed many of the documents, certain news outlets have gotten their hands on certain documents, but y'all know I already owe Sally Mae. I'm not trying to owe anybody else money. So I bought using the one document that I can share with you guys in full confidence that we are okay. All right, so let's just start in the beginning. Speaking of being sealed, on February 1st, 2008, an action was commenced in the Superior Court of the State of California and for the County of Los Angeles entitled Conservatorship of Britney Jean Spears, with the case number BP 108870. A copy of the docket is attached hereto as Exhibit A. The documents have been sealed, thus making it inappropriate to divulge the initial. I'm going to scroll down and show you the docket. Look how many times they were in court over this. This is just in 2008. All of this is sealed. This is highly unusual to seal documents, again, because the purpose of sealing documents is to protect someone. Britney Spears at this point, and still now, is a grown adult. The reason why court documents are open to the public is to keep people honest. It's because the information should be allowed to everyone, because A, what if you get yourself into that type of situation? And B, it's to make sure that people are not being taken advantage of, which is why most records are not sealed. They're sealed in terms of children because maybe you do something like as a juvenile and then, you didn't know any better, or like life was unfortunate, you had unfortunate circumstances. That shouldn't affect your later life. But outside of that, I am also with the belief that most things should be open, which is the belief of most attorneys. It just promotes honesty. When you can hide things, you could be dishonest. So I'm going to precursor this and get your wine because this is very depressing. Miss Spears has not, so we're going to be paragraph 2. That was page 1, paragraph 1. Sorry, by the way. Miss Spears has not received the benefit of a single hearing before the court, yet she has been stripped of her rights to access to counsel of her choosing and to meet with her counsel in a private meeting. Up until now, 12 years later, she's never gotten to hire her own attorney, which is very problematic. Paragraph 3. Miss Spears has been denied the right to associate freely with her friends. She's been denied the right to make or receive telephone calls. She has been denied the right to operate a motor vehicle and must be accompanied by security guards when in public, whether in a motor vehicle or on foot. She has been denied the right to receive and send mail. A lot of these allegations have been slowly coming out in news media outlets, and sometimes people tell on themselves. Her former manager also said in a recent, which it's wild to me people tell themselves, also said in a recent article that I was reading when I was doing my research for this, that she doesn't have an email address. I couldn't fathom being a 38-year-old woman and not having an email address. Child. Additionally, she has been denied the right to her finances. She's not allowed access to her money or her credit cards. It just keeps going on and on to say like all the things she's not allowed to do. And the reason why he's listing these out is because he had access, I believe, before he submitted this notice to the sealed document. So he knows what's in her conservatorship. A lot of people have made educated guesses, assumptions, and found certain sealed documents to say what her conservatorship allows her to do and allows her not to do. However, it's not public. And now, hopefully for her case, her new attorneys will push for those documents to be unsealed, because it's very startling what's going on. It's very startling, this idea that someone who you do not get along with just because they're related to you can all of a sudden say that, hey, you are not competent to do anything by yourself. I'm going to do all of it for you. And basically, what, according to this claim, lock you in a room. And basically, according to this claim, deprive you of any outside contact. So remember, to go to federal court, you have to prove either you have to hit the monetary threshold, which, if I'm not mistaken, it's been a long time in the litigation, is $75,000. Let's see. Federal court monetary jurisdiction. Let's see. Yeah, 75 grand. Still remember. Or you have to have a federal question, which means you have to invoke a federal law. So this is what he did. So this action is a civil action of which this court, we're paragraph 5, which this court has original jurisdiction pursuant to the provisions of 28 USC 1441B, in that it is a civil action that touches upon important issues of federal law, to wit whether, federal law, to wit whether an adult child may be subjected to her parents to their complete and total control, and that the petitioner and conservator supplements the medications scheduled under the Food, Drug, and Cosmetics Act and prescribed to her by her doctors with a near total deprivation of civil rights. It is the unique interplay between those medications covered by the Food, Drug, and Cosmetics Act and the utterly stifling control imposed upon her by the conservator that puts this case within the narrow ambit of the Supreme Court's recent decision of Gramble and Sons Metal Products v. Daring Engineering. So now he's using case law. So basically, with federal cases, the best way to remove something from state court to federal court, there are a lot of ways to do it, but is to compare your case to that of a federal case to try and get the federal court to side with you, which is, we've seen in some other cases where they do that. So he's comparing to this. Pursuant to Gramble, the case is removed and need not support independent cause of action in federal court. Merely the case needs to only touch upon significant area of federal law. So here, the significant area of federal law he's talking about is that act, Food, Drug, and Cosmetics Act. And her confinement is under the Constitution, according to him, a restriction of her life and liberty, coupled with the fact that they are giving her prescribed medications, according to this attorney in 2008. In this instant case, the federal question is important because Ms. Spears' prescribed medications are designed for outpatient use, yet she is being confined by the conservator to the private prison of her own home with no opportunity to enjoy even a modicum of liberty or privacy whatsoever. I'm just going to ask this plainly. Have y'all seen any paparazzi shots of Britney Spears outside recently? I haven't. So paragraph 9, we'll go to the second sentence. Submitted to the court that the deprivation of her civil liberties by the conservator is so severe as to interfere with the effectiveness of the scheduled medications that are covered by the Food, Drug, and Cosmetics Act. So he's saying the drugs that she's prescribed are outpatient, like a doctor needs to give them to you, and that because they have, in his words, confined her to the private prison of her own home, that they are interfering with her right to her prescribed medications. Or you can look at it the other way, which is that they're giving her prescribed medications that they should be giving her. I highly suggest you go on that Instagram that I told you, that they have certain other documents, which is great to see, so you can kind of keep up with it. But it's very short. Like, we're only going through 6 pages. In terms of, and the cross-section of entertainment and privacy, it's very interesting to see the public's reaction to, oh, you're a public figure, everything has to be public, or, oh, what are the effects of that? So with that, let's go to paragraph 11. We'll start with sentence 2. Numerous scientific studies have shown the direct relationship between the lack of privacy and actual physical illness. Miss Spears may be the most public person who has ever lived, and it is unlikely that any competent evidence exists as to the severity of physical illness attributable to the magnitude of publicity surrounding her non-existent private life. That's an interesting paragraph, because it is not normal to be thrust into the public spotlight at 11 years old and continue that life in a manner that you are going to make it out unscathed. If we just did a basic study of child stars, who ends up okay and who ends up with some type of mental illness or severe drug addiction, 80% of them doesn't end well. That doesn't stop parents from signing their kids up. That doesn't stop parents from dragging their kids around to auditions when the kid doesn't want to go. That paragraph also alludes to what nobody asked when this was going on. No one took into consideration, yes, Britney Spears shaved her head in 2008. We all saw it. Yes, she smacked the paparazzi's car with an umbrella. Okay. And she had a baby. She might have had postpartum depression. She was stressed out. In all these years, everyone sat there and watched her all the time. Well, to show the severity of physical illness attributable to the magnitude of publicity surrounding her non-existent private life. I mean, that type of lifestyle that's not healthy is not a reason for someone else to then prey on someone and say, yeah, they have dementia. Maybe they're stressed. It's not normal to have no private life. Maybe they need someone to help them out. Maybe there are lots of other ways to go about this than taking their credit card, their money, and, quote, according to this man, allegedly locking them in their private home prison. There are 10 different ways to cook an egg. There's a lot of different things that could have been done besides depriving her of her rights as a person in this manner. So we are going to see this play out. My hope is that, so on October 14th, like I said, they allowed her, she's now allowed to hire her own attorney. So hopefully we will see her, slowly making a re-entry back into regular life, if they allow that, and ending the conservatorship as it currently stands. At least allowing her conservator to be someone else, someone who is a disinterested third party, because her father, clearly there are some issues there, which you can read about in the blogs. I ain't gonna get into that. But everyone deserves the right to live their life the way they see fit, as long as they're not harming anyone. Just because something is legal doesn't make it morally right. Yeah, it's legal to do a conservatorship. Is it morally right? Doesn't sound so. Conservatorship abuse is, something that I think now is becoming on the topic of people's minds that a lot of people weren't aware of. I myself wasn't aware of that. Wasn't familiar with conservatorship at all before looking into this. This happens mostly to a lot of elderly people. So someone pops up around your grandma, around your papa, tell them to go away. Oh, since this was very sombering, in my opinion. It's sombering to see one of your favorite childhood stars be forced into a life that they don't necessarily want to live that way. That's the most PC way I can put it. That's the most PC way I can put it. It's very sombering. So, as a pick-me-up, why don't you guys in the comments let me know your favorite Britney Spears childhood memory? Or favorite, just 90s pop memory. I miss the 90s pop. It's much more jovial. But there are a lot of sketchy people in 90s pop. Lil Pearlman, he's deceased, so I could say that. And I think his estate disowned him anyway. But yeah, so let's do that. We'll end it on a happier note. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in to Wine and Chill. If you haven't already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. And I will see you guys next time.